Mr. Isom will not be here today, so. The minutes of. Which of the minutes of the last meeting? Any questions or additions, subtractions? Committee appointments and updates, Ms. Andy Bell.
She's on her way.
The next is Mr. Archibald. He had an emergency, so Mr. Reed is going to speak on his behalf.
Okay. I am Lee Reed. I'm the chairman of Ben Harvest Planning Commission. I had an opportunity to speak to the nominee, Stevie Archibald. Quite by accident, I was talking to him and I told him that we had a vacancy on the planning commission. And he indicated that he had worked for the city for about 35 years. And he has spent about 15 of those years in the inspection department. We call it code enforcement nowadays. But he later said he also worked in the assessor's office for about 20 years. 7 or so of those years he was the assistant assessor. And then for the last 13 years he was the assessor. And he worked in that position until he retired about 13 years ago. What he didn't realize while I was talking to him, I was also interviewing him. And as a result of that, I said, "Oh, Steve, I think you might want to apply for this." And he indicated that he plays golf on the same days that we meet, but I told him that he goes early enough, so he'll get back in plenty of time to make all the meetings. And of course, being the man that he is, he had to get his wife's consent. And I guess she said yes, because he did apply. And based upon his prior knowledge of the code enforcement procedure, and he does understand assessing, I thought he would be able to hit the ground running, so to speak. So I would like to recommend him for this position. Thank you.
So, thank you. I know Mr. Archibald as well, and talked to him about serving in the city on different things, and so I'm glad to know that he did accept and wants to serve. He's very passionate. Once you start talking to Steve, all his passions start to come out, whether you want to hear them or not. They do. So I think he will be a great addition to the planning commission as it stands. So
Thank you.
I would agree based on his background. I think he'd be a great candidate.
and when Ms. Bell comes in, the next item on the agenda.
Does that mean we suspend the rules and pass it on to the body?
We're gonna pass it on to the body and let the body decide whether they want to vote or not, yes or no.
Does that mean we suspend the rules and pass it on to the body, full body?
What do you mean suspend the rules?
Well, usually the requirement is that they present an application, they show up and they do whatever, and then it either gets shut down or goes to the commission. So that means we're gonna suspend the rules this time.
I'm not suspending any rules. Mr. Lee talked with Mr. Archibald. Mr. Archibald had an emergency, could not make it, gave his information, so it'll go to the full commission, and the full commission can vote up or down for this particular item.
But is there a standard operating procedure, and are we deviating it from it now?
So you are currently, as you're talking to me, is sitting in your seat. Yeah, we are. So we have to continue to follow the rules in every matter, if that's the case. So it'll go to the full body.
So
and then the full
my
body,
suggestion is to suspend the rules so we
I
can
don't
be.
need to suspend the rules, it's going to the full council.
Oh, okay. We'll make note of this.
Thank you,
Good day,
Commissioner. We have an update from the Downtown Development Authority.
Good evening, committee. Thanks for having me here today. I prepared something in writing and I realized after I got here that I had made a number of errors in grammar, but also one very important error in fact, which I'll get to. So we've been very busy and with a number of projects, and I'd like to remind you, first of all, who the members of the Downtown Development Authority are, for everyone's information. Linda Allen is the treasurer of the DDA. Commissioner Jerry Edwards serves as a representative for the commission and member. Deidre Fields is our newest member. Virgil Hatcher, Cameron Isom, Roger Lang, Audrey Peoples, Jonathan Pugh, Richard Rabbers, and me, as well as, of course, the mayor and Mr. Mitchell. So the group represents people from all different areas. We've got people who are property owners, downtown district residents, agencies, business owners in retail and restaurants, human services, product design, consulting services, and human services. And 5 of us are residents of the city, not including Mr. Mitchell or Mayor Mohammed. So we think we have a nice representation of the people who make up the district. And all of the people whom I named have been active in our projects throughout this past year. They've made either donations of time, money, goods, to make it possible for us to do any of the activities that we've done. So in 2022, we've been working on community engagement, trying to work with new people as they come into the city, to help orient them to what's happening in the area, downtown, and also some of the policies that occasionally people bump up against because they're new and don't understand how we do things in our community versus others. That's always an ongoing challenge because people don't get a rules of the road, to operate. So sometimes things come up because they've done something that raised questions on the part of neighbors or, inspections or just the general public, and they try to resolve issues, and oftentimes they'll speak to us first, or the people will be referred to us by the staff to talk with them, and we're always happy to make introductions and try to support the businesses as they come into town or as they continue their business. Important things I think that we've done in the last year was, one in particular was opening the Benton Harbor Now Welcome Center, which is located at 209 Territorial Road. That's the containers. It's been a hub for our activities, and it's been used by the public as well. We've had hundreds of visitors and groups and individuals who come for information of all kinds. Residents come because they want to know what activities they can take part in. And the visitors, of course, come because they see something and want to know what more there is to know about our community. And since we're staffed by volunteers from the board, our volunteers are pretty well aware of the various things that are going on because we live here and we all take part in a lot of the things ourselves. we've been fortunate to be able to do that because of partnership or collaboration, I guess is a better word, with the company that owns the property that we're renting. So we have space that we couldn't afford anywhere else. The Southwest Michigan Tourist Council has continued to support us annually in a number of our projects, but that one in particular, both with monetary donations that have allowed us to pay rent and utilities, but also they've provided us with materials so that we're able to offer maps, brochures of things like the Maker's Trail, Creative Connections, which is another program that they do, and sort of like a treasure hunt. So if you take that, you can go from place to place and get stamps. You get entered into a drawing at the end of the year, and that's been kind of a fun thing to get people to move from one place to another downtown, because a number of the cultural places are actually here, which is a nice thing, an important thing. And we are included on their website and have been members for a number of years now. So it's a great thing for the city as well as for the region, I think, to have us have our own visitor center, welcome center. And actually the name Welcome Center is because we want to make sure that it isn't just visitors. Another development in 2022 was that we completed the transaction of the on the State Theater and are now the sole owners of the Benton Harbor State Theater. And that donation to the Downtown Development Authority is a value of close to $500,000. We anticipate a lot of work. It's been closed up for 14 years and has some roof issues. We're doing our best to figure out how to get that taken care of so we can move forward with planning for its rehabilitation and restoration. That's where I made actual error. We don't have $4,100,000. We have $100,000 in cash that was donated along with the building, and that's part of that $500,000 in value. That money is held at the Community Foundation, and we draw against it as we have expenses. That way, the donor is assured that we're using the money that it was planned for, and for us, it helps us with a paper trail, and that's all a good thing for us. And of course, it's securely held, so we don't have to worry about it. People getting access to it who shouldn't, through a bank account or something like that. Our communications committee continues to work on its website, which is Benton Harbor Now. BentonHarborNow.com. It's still a work in progress. We're working on a directory for businesses to link up downtown businesses, but also neighborhood home businesses or people who have side businesses in order to try to refer people back and forth to build community wealth and to try to hold the wealth here in our city. It's a long time coming, but we have to get it together. We participated in the KitchenAid Day of Caring last year in August, and that was, they had a group of hundreds of their employees who they sent out to different places in Berrien County to do projects to benefit the communities that they had chosen. And United Way approached us about finding something worthwhile for them to do. And so they worked with us And our ward volunteers to clean up 3 different places in the city, working in the arts district along the streets, trying to clean up some of the overgrowth in the areas where the plantings are, cleaning up the city's parking lot over on Hinkley Street, which had all kinds of stuff growing in it, and piles of dirt. So they are coming back this year, so we look forward to narrowing the scope a little bit, so we can have more impact on the day. And we'll probably be more focused on those plantings of the street because they require so much work. There's a lot of weeds and things that grow up in them, and it really will take a lot to get the dead trees out, to get some of the weeds and shrubs that have grown up where they don't belong. In the fall this year, as we have in other years, we did a trick or treat festival downtown where we worked with businesses, Benton Harbor schools, the library, public works, sorry, public safety, and the Coast Guard to have representatives of the different groups there for the children to enjoy, and they got to see a fire truck and a police car and a boat from the Coast Guard, as well as go from place to place and get treats. And the most remarkable thing of that day was that the Benton Harbor High School band was clad in rain slickers and played for an hour and a half, strolling around through the streets with the rain pouring on them. It was quite a sight to see and a wonderful gift to the community as a whole. We had our annual holiday light celebration. It was rained out, so it wasn't a whole lot of celebrating in City Center, but we did put the lights up and got everything together for that vacation. It was also the art house that night. We planned this year to do it December 1st, and we've chosen a date separate from the art house, specifically coordinating with the high school so that we will be able to have the band perform again. Last year, there was a conflict between the athletic schedule and the schedule of the holiday lighting. So this year we made sure that we started with them. We'll be working with the library as well on that and public workers. We have been involved as board members and residents in the master planning process. Our Welcome Center was used by the consultants as a place to do their work last year, and again just recently yesterday. And we've also done some advocacy for downtown, including an issue which was taken by this committee to discuss and consider for changing the zoning ordinance in regard to the use of shipping containers to create small retail spaces for entrepreneurs who want to start up not only downtown, but also we believe that the Empire Corridor is another good place. And talking with neighborhood people who are involved in other projects, they're in agreement that some strategy of that sort could benefit both areas. And we look forward to talking to you more about that in the future. So, that's anything else I can answer a question or
I
anything?
just have a question about, we started talking about social districts, and I know there was a policy that was being developed for that. Wanted to find out where that was, or had you guys brought it back, so that this group could actually take a look at it.
Well, I know that the clerk sent everyone a a link to the training from the Michigan Downtowns Association. Our board members and Mr. Reed, Planning Commission, took part in that training, which is very, I thought, very detailed and informative for those who haven't had a chance to see it. It outlined a number of key issues. As the proposal stood, the one that you received, I think there were a number of things that needed to be considered. Among them is who the authority would rest with to establish the district, whether or not the commission would maintain that control specifically, or whether we would turn it over to the Downtown Development Authority, which in some communities is what they've done. But a key consideration, I thought, for our city was to identify where we would find the startup funds and how we would manage the expense of managing a social district. So elements of that are staffing, accounting, auditing businesses to make sure that they comply, licensing, and maintenance and public safety are all expenses that would fall to the city initially. And an example that was cited in that training was Muskegon, who has had to put in $110,000 of general fund money to make the social district work in that community. So from a DDA standpoint, when it comes to that particular hurdle, without a budget from tax revenues or some other source that generates enough cash for that, we're not in a position to take it up and manage it. So it would fall to the current city staff and the commission to decide how much to spend to make it happen. So it's an interesting idea, and I'm not sure that the businesses fully understood that they would be charged fees for licenses, that they would have to, comply with audits, and so that they would be responsible to public safety for the conduct of the people who would be within that district if they're not in their business, place of business. So a lot of things to consider, and if we can figure out how to make those issues, how to take care of those issues, then I think it might be worth doing it in a couple of places in the city. I would consider the Riverview area, where you have businesses that are close together along the waterfront, and then where they're clustered downtown. But again, that's a lot to control. It's a lot to maintain, keep clean, and you need the staff. So
Heard anything else?
we're trying to keep an open mind. I do know that Mr. Little, who's not here tonight, is still pondering and gathering information. So I'm sure you'll be hearing back from him at some point.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Does anybody else have any questions for?
Sorry.
Questions? Thank you. Is there, so appointment to the planning commission, Ms. Angel. How are you?
I'm good.
Start with Rachel information for everybody else doesn't have it, just why you want to serve on planning commission and why you think you do a great job.
Honestly, I was able to, or honored to serve in helping with the master plan over this past year. So it kind of opened my eyes to exactly who the planning commission is and what they do. And I enjoy being a part of that, speaking for the future of this community. And that's really my passion, so I think that's how we do it.
Okay, I don't have any, I'm excited, I'm happy that you did decide to serve on this, on the planning commission. I think again, there's a lot of great people serving here and just more added wisdom, eyes, and input from other communities. So, thank you, sir.
Appreciate it. Thank you, guys.
Does anybody have any questions for Ms. Bell? You wanna sit right there?
Well, I really don't have a question for her, because I'm just appreciating that she's gonna fill that spot here. I like to let, when residents get involved in the government like that, and especially the planning commission, we're required to do classes. And I don't know if, you got all of that information, but it's pretty straight and narrow what we have to do. So the more knowledge you get on that kind of zoning and ordinance will propel us all forward. And I think you'd be a good candidate.
I appreciate that. Can I speak to that? So I didn't agree to it unless that was a part of it. So I appreciate you saying that. I look forward to being trained so I can be effective.
All right, next item on the agenda is the responsible contracting policy, and that is Commissioner Henry.
I did send out some templates. Other municipalities have accepted this policy, and so, and this is not the first time we've talked about it. So I'll just kind of go over some of the reasons why I would like to see Benton Harbor become a union rep city. Because first of all, you get excellent work out of union workers. And second of all, with the state giving so many incentives for apprenticeships, and with the city having programs in for apprenticeship, which allows our people to come in and be union workers, train union workers. So, I don't know if you read what was being said about it. Then I think, Clerk, do you have something that we kind of looking at?
So I do. I actually have a draft. And most of the templates that Commissioner Henry sent were pretty equal to each other. It's something that all of these communities kind of go off of the same one. They just kind of make it theirs. So I do have a draft. Just keep in mind that the attorney currently does have it. So this may not be the final. And I apologize, it wasn't in the packet. It actually just got finished and he took his first look at it. But like I said, it's very similar to all of the other communities.
And with the fact that we have Section 3, which allows us to either employ citizens get jobs with contractors, or that they provide money to train people. So that's what Section 3 does. And most of our money comes from federal government. And so working with responsible contracting policy will definitely include our apprenticeships and anyone else that have skills. I think that HUD has a $200,000 for Section 3. It used to be $1 million, but now it's 200. So if we give a contract out for $200,000, they are required to work under Section 3, which allows us employment for our people or training after the project ends. I'm kind of disappointed that this has been kicked down the road so many times, and the attorney has been asked to look at it several times, and he gave me no response. But just to peruse this one, it looks kind of basic like all the other ones. And if you really look, you'll see all the cities that thought that this was a great policy for them to, and it's going to be great for Benton Harbor too. One of our citizens, Raymond McGee, brought this in, and I felt like after he passed on that it just kind of dropped. So I'm just going to see if we can get back into the flow of giving us the power. So we've always took the lowest bid, and it hasn't always been the best bid. And with our engineering firm not responding in a proper manner as to botched jobs, this will kind of eliminate some of that barrier and expense that we're putting in right now.
I have a question, city manager, in regards to this, with this, really talking about ensuring that our residents or people who are working, receive fair wages and fair benefits, as part of whatever contractor that they're working with. I think it was one of the residents, Mr. Buckrit, brought up the idea of a rating system for any contractor that we're using, to see, how many, a scoring system, say they use people that lived in 49022 address, how many, and scoring them based on, the kind of jobs or complaints and that kind of thing. Is there anything currently in place when we work with different contractors? Like a lot of our streets have like piano keys with, some of it has concrete, and they said that they filled it in with the material that either they negotiated, and in some places where replacing what they put down. Because I think on Main Street they put down asphalt when concrete was there. They didn't replace it with concrete. So is there, or could we could create some system to rate these contractors as they're coming into our city doing work and working with the city? Do we all do, or you may already have something in place? That's what I'm asking.
There's a rating system, and Avonmarsh has that rating system. The one rating system that's particularly here is the efforts to get 20%, I think it is. 25% minority participation. And that's the biggest rating system, but now we look at performance also.
Clark Moore, is there, so right now it's just, the question is just asked, how many minority contractors? How many minority, people that's being used? But that question is so varied because minority means a lot of different things. That's women, that's Hispanics, that's Black, that includes a lot of different things. So, Clark Moore, do you know of anything that is specific that we could use, like a sample, so at the next time that we can take a look at some kind of a system that we can employ, saying for this job we use 5, there's a number that can, and then each number gets a certain score based on their response, and to go along with the 30% workers that's supposed to be used in the city.
So in this policy itself, social equity is part of that. And they get so much percent when you rate them, based off of, looks like, hiring residents, evidence of equal employment, get so much percent. And these, like I said, they can be changed if you want to do different percentages. This is just the basic outline. So that's how if you pass this policy, it would be scored on a 100-point scale, with right now the draft being 10% of that.
It would take a person to do that.
I was looking at this, I was like, they're probably used to doing this, but it's like, it seems like there could be a simpler process, a simpler number or something like that, just, 1 through 5, 1 through 10. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
That's what I'm thinking in my mind when I'm looking at a policy like that. But, that would make purchase, what would make sense.
I would love to get, this is my first time seeing it, so I don't really have any comments, because I couldn't read 5 pages, in that little bit of time, but I would love to be able to read it and give comments. Because if it's a matter of using a 100-point scale, we could always use 10 if we wanted to, or we could always adjust
You could always adjust it to what you want to do, and that's the purpose of getting the draft, is to look it over, because like I said, the attorney has it currently, so he'll give his feedback as well.
Does anybody else have any questions or comments about this particular item? We'd love to hear them.
First of all, speaking to a 29-year union employee, where I currently hold 3 positions still on being on the executive board 26 years. So I can speak on contracts and negotiations, and I know it's a great thing because I've been the bargaining chair for several years and the union rep and the chair trustee doing the audits for over 20-some years. So when you're dealing with union contracts and negotiations, everything is set. It's not left open. It's set clear what the requirements are, and you bargain for better wages, you bargain for benefits, the whole. And right now, we don't have anything in place for that. And as far as what the city manager said, as far as the rating, of the contract that we have a rating. Well, it did not help, but like you said, not just the way you mentioned, the whole city mostly looked like a piano. And I think if you work on something, it's supposed to look better than it did before. Now it looks a mess. And I stated that, and as far as I think he stated that you got to hire 25% minority. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, say with those contractors that we hired for the lead line, a lot of them started out with minority, but they were treated so bad, a lot of them quit. So that didn't work out either, and that didn't help. So we need something in place, and I think this would be one of the great things, because it's talking about equity and all this other how to treat pretty much people, and so I think this would be something good and would address that issue too, because that's what we fight for rights too of employees. So I haven't read that, but just knowing about how it works, it would deal with a large variety of things: mistreatment, harassment, discrimination, also fair raises, and benefits. So I see it as a plus. Thank you.
So employee retention. Does anyone know if that's in here already?
No, I don't know.
So I wrote it down so we can add if we need.
Well, usually unions keep their better workers. Usually they accept the value of the training, and the training is the most important part of it. Because when I became a worker, I thought I was great at sweeping. They had to teach me how to sweep. so. I thought I know how to do this.
Yes.
So training is the best part, and when you hear unions say safety first, and when I see our kids out in flip-flops trying to do some heavy work, I know that they were trained for safety first. So will this go back to your
Yeah, it
committee?
will have to, because like you said, we just got, things to actually look at, so.
Because it does have some other, things in it that, another committee, I wanna kick this can down the road real fast. So can we schedule it for another committee instead of waiting for another month?
So you should actually put it in the communications committee as well. And, I don't know what Ron has on his agenda, but I just send it back through every committee, just.
What about something that's more into line with the policy would be planning and economic development? It's part of that. I don't mind doing it, but I've got a lot of stuff on my coming up
You can
for,
ask, Commissioner,
we're gonna interview broadband people that are coming in, next
Okay.
Monday, on the fourth Monday, so. But if we can get this to another committee and then come back to your committee, I think we can make a decision faster.
Coming back, Commissioner Isom probably will be chair.
What you say?
Commissioner Isom probably will be chairing that meeting, I'll be out.
Well, you're co-chair, you can push it to that meeting.
Yeah. Oh.
He doesn't
And-
chair
and-
that committee. He
no,
chairs
I'm
personnel
saying
and finance.
he's chair, but he'll probably have to chair this,
Oh, this one next time.
this meeting.
And then maybe the
yeah.
clerk be the city attorney would have picked up a little speed and gave us some
Hopefully,
recommendations.
I have some recommendations that I'll send it out.
Please. Please,
I'm scanning this like everyone else, but one thing that stands out to me is item number 17, and I'm not sure what page this is, where it talks about statement affirming that the firm will pay all craft employees, good employees on the project, current wage rates and fringe benefits as required under applicable federal, state, or local wage laws. I think it's important that the commission weigh in on living wage in that area. And I understand we won't need the most bang for the buck, but the last thing we want to do is tell people they have to work for nothing when we're trying to get positions for them and also get the work done. So you might want to try to put something in there about that, just to make sure, if possible, that, that they're actually looking after their employees.
well, usually contractors, they go with living wage automatically. But thank you, that's a good point.
The way it's written, it almost could default to minimum wage if a contractor tried to sneak that through. Because if he's complying with the law,
Yeah,
that's minimum wage, not living wage. And we don't have a minimum set, do we?
not in the city.
So,
Yes, sir.
Why do we always duck, union work? Is it because of all of the other corporate greed going on that we can't get citizens to have jobs going through the unions? I'm a union worker, and we were taught, like, for instance, when you do a street, you blow it off. In all other neighborhoods, they do that. They don't do that excuse me. In other municipalities, they do that. Blow it off, they don't care what they have to do to get all that sand off the street. But at Benton Harbor, I don't even know who's doing it, or who we hired to do it, but it's a mess everywhere. Hire some union people to come into this town and help us. I've always fought for union workers because I know how they actually trained us to work and get jobs done where it wasn't all of this pussyfooting around and not getting the job done. And it's not the first time I asked about union workers. I was told that we were working with them, some, but I don't see them. I don't hear of it. Not to say it's not, but I know it needs to be more, and we need to be more in control of who's doing what in our city anyway. If you're not doing a good job, I wouldn't care if it was Avamarsh or Whirlpool or whoever. They could stop doing that job and go back to doing whatever other businesses that they have. You're not going to treat us in the most highly, like their little neighborhoods, then we need to find somebody what will, and I know union workers will do this. So thanks for the time of saying that, because I don't hear anybody talking up for union workers or for the union that we have here. Local 355 is a damn good union, and the workers are excellent. But are we using them in full capacity? I know you don't, because we don't even talk about it. We talk about Avamarsh. We talk about all of these other people was not really doing what I say is excellent work. They're not doing that. But I thank you for hearing me out. And I hope I'm not the only one feel this way either.
Thank you.
I'll add to Mr. Duncan and Ms. Henry comment about work quality. I think that the quality is hopefully pretty well specified on bids. I think that oversight must be extremely lacking. And so poor work is allowed to continue. In discussions with Avamarsh, I was told that for some of them, I think there were 5 contractors involved in the lead line work. So for some of the contractors, which were very large, the jobs were very small. And they brought in people that were employees of theirs, but not necessarily the best people, because it really wasn't that big a job for them. That is not an excuse in my mind for all of us to suffer based on their opinion about the job. If the job is accepted, the bid is accepted, they should be carried out completely. Your comment about the difference between asphalt and concrete or pavers and either. A lot of beautiful cities or streets have been quite messed up by pavers being abandoned and the patchwork, the piano, many people would call it. It's not too late to put those things back together. I think that Avamarsh is making a punch list for complaints. My first one, quality-wise, is something that creates a safety hazard, which concrete is hard stuff, and there are many trip hazards around town. There are other issues with quality. Our town goes down as our quality standards are reduced, and we need to maintain them and move upward rather than downward. Replacing lead is a huge upward move, but not following through on the details of the bid is a flat line or a negative.
Okay, I stopped, and I asked one of the contractors, they were removing concrete, and I asked, were they gonna replace the concrete? And he said, well, we're gonna fill it and then we'll come back. And I was like, well, that doesn't make sense. You took out concrete because, well, that's what he told me. On a little side street, Robbins, I think it was Robbins. Not Robbins, escaping me now. but there's concrete, and they put asphalt in some of those spaces, and they said they were gonna come back, to do that. And I'm like, how do you come back to a job? So they've messed up a lot of our streets, and who Mr. Duncan was talking, I did it right now, providing, providing adequate, oversight to those jobs. I think that's what the main issue is, having somebody's designation as the person going out to make sure that people are, doing the work. I think has been an issue. I don't think I know that it was an issue.
Last comment, the last time they were here, we asked about 1100 block of Broadway, one of the drain pipes in the middle of the street clattering all night. It's a couple of meetings, maybe 3, and it's still doing the same thing. And that's what makes me think Union wouldn't do nothing like that. So
What street is this, Mr. Duncan?
Broadway, in the 1100 block of Broadway, right? We didn't talk about it, but sometimes you just talk yourself into a hole in the ground. And that ain't what I want to do. I don't want to come in here and argue and fuss and wrestle with y'all. I don't like wrestling. I like seeing some things done, and when it's not being done, you get a grumpy old man talking till I talk myself into a hole in the ground. So I just like to see some things done where we don't have to keep coming back about it. And union workers won't let it be like that. Thank you.
So just summing that up, it's like we need an inspection process. So after the work is complete, someone can come out and inspect it.
Before they even get paid.
Yeah, you're right. I agree. Yes, before they get paid.
I think that has come up with the mowing, the city contracted mowing, in the meetings. I believe it's been discussed that code enforcement or someone would review the job before payment is issued. I'm not sure that that's being carried out. Evidence suggests that.
And somebody cut the grass right there in the circle going down Empire and blew all the grass in the street. Right at the hill, right at the office building, all the dead grass was going around in the circle. Then I think Director Bruce said something to the contractor, so then they went and blew it on top of the grass. They left the dead grass on top of the grass. Going around that circle. And it's,
I broomed it off. You're talking about Yarborough Park?
yeah, right there.
That was
So
terrible.
It was terrible.
I raked it off out of the gutters in order to make a visual statement for probably Pier 1000.
I don't want to turn this into a griping session, but something has to be done. We can't continue to live in these conditions. People are getting paid to do work that they're not doing, and we deserve better. And it's like we don't run day-to-day operations. And I understand there's a lot to be done, but something has to be done, or something has to be done. That's
The only thing I'd like to add to that roundabout is I did report that to code enforcement. I didn't get any reply.
Was there any report of the work that you did at Broadway Park?
No work has been done, except for the spray, and it'll start 15. A lot of work will start next week. Broadway Park.
But they're still spraying?
No, they sprayed one day to kill the weeds for some of the work that'll be done. They're putting down those little mulching thing to kill some of those weeds, but nothing else has been done besides that.
They sprayed it?
Yeah. It was one day. A couple weeks ago.
I just want to say, I stated this about the grass and the commissioning money. How it's terrible. Grass dumping and a lot of other things. But as far as when we got those contractors for the lead, and I brought this up at one of the committee meetings, commission meetings, that if there were contracts in place specifying, hey, that you got to have this looking this way. You can't leave it, you gotta have it better than what it, with all the stuff, what we expect. That this, a lot of this will not have happened also. And it should be consequences, maybe not even get paid if that look what you did, because this is a mess. And I don't think if it was in other areas that it would not have been done.
I'll say.
Because I know one of the ones that worked in the fourth ward was 5-star, and they came from Wisconsin. So, just came to live whatever. My street, I've been on my house 27 years, and my street always was nice. Now it looks like a piano. I've never had an issue with especially my block, the streets. They were always nice. And as far as a union, Mr. Duncan, there's a lot of unions around here. It's actually 4 UAW one. One is 5. 3 is in Middle Harbor, 1 is in St. Joe. And it's other unions too, but I'm just saying specifically UAW is actually 4. And another thing in response to Mr. Hensel, number 17, he said, instead of living wage, I don't know any unions that pay anybody minimum wage anyway. So most unions, especially ones that I know, and I know a lot of them, they pay above minimum wage anyway. I mean, that could be something to add, but they don't pay minimum wage anyway.
I think he was thinking about our area. If somebody coming in, it's just current wages, so people that are making a certain amount. So we're gonna pay them what they currently would be making in the city. I think that we specify that we're saying a living wage, not $12, not $10, but a living wage.
Well, he said minimum wage.
No, he was saying to make sure that they're not getting paid. He said make sure it says living wage, so that they don't get paid lower than what the standards are.
And I heard that, I was just specifying that because we talk about union, they don't pay minimum,
Right,
they
they
do
should.
above anyway.
Anybody else have anything else on this particular item? This is a great discussion, and we'll definitely push it to the next 2 committees, the planning commission. I'm sorry.
That's okay. So in the event that this was ratified, where it says public input, who would answer?
So it hasn't, this is just a draft.
No, I mean, like, if this was adopted.
So who should we have people send, email the clerk with any suggestions?
It should be on the paperwork.
Yeah. And then I will specify in the email, this is for some additions to the policy that we looked at in the committee.
It does spell it out, but I'm saying like, I know that's one of the reasons that people typically don't say anything, because they think nothing's gonna happen when they say anything. So I would say, that item is really important because it goes to your eyes and ears. If you don't trust your eyes and ears, or if your eyes and ears don't trust their own voice, everything is cracks like all that.
Point well taken.
So go to the next 2 committees. I thank everybody for your input, and this really is important. I think we all, if you see those contractors, stop them. Hey, tell me what you doing, why this is, this is crazy.
Let them know what they expect.
This meeting is adjourned. Yes, what you saying, city manager?
Nothing. We don't have people going out to the contract.
No, but I'm saying, for them to tell me what they told me, I knew that was not the truth. And they still haven't fixed what they did. But the meeting is adjourned, I'm sorry. This is all. They didn't fix what they